country that we were born in, Lord. Many of us don't know the blessings that we have or the freedoms that we take for granted each and every day that we wake up and breathe freely in this country. We thank you for allowing us to call ourselves American citizens where we can worship and thank you freely, Lord, in this land of bountiful harvest and plentiful blessings. We thank you for the freedoms and the enfranchisement that we have to vote that not every other country has. We thank you for, in a world of war, in a world of division, in a world of absolute despotism, that we have the ability to gather together, Lord, that regardless of who we vote for, regardless of the divisions, the misinformation, and all of the attacks that arise on our candidates, Lord, let us be united as American citizens so that we can defend this country against the true enemy, the deceiver of your kingdom, and those who spread his lies. Give us the wisdom, give us the empowerment, and the strength to stand for your throne on earth as it is in heaven. In Christ's name, amen.
Amen. All right, if you will stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible. All right, I'd like to thank everyone for joining us this evening. Appreciate everyone's concern for the future of our county, our state, our country. I'd like to start by introducing some of the elected officials who are here. We have District Attorney Dale Hanna. He's kind of waiting. Okay. Precinct 1 Constable Matt Wiley. Okay, take your Jeep. Okay, thank you, sir. If he doesn't move his Jeep, we can't come back here. Precinct 3 Commissioner Mike White. Okay. Precinct 3 Justice of the Peace Andrew Nolan. Precinct 4 Constable Troy Fuller. We're also blessed with the City of Godly Mayor Pro Tem Michael Cavendish. Did I say it right?
Close enough.
Close. And we have Godly School Board Member Kayla Lane. Whether we agree with everything these people do, they do work for us, and we want to tell them how much we appreciate it. So right now, I'm going to have the candidates are going to come up here. This is the hot seat section. And there's not technically a format this evening. This is a town hall. So I'm going to give each of the candidates a minute. They're just going to introduce themselves. You know, my name is Katie Jones. I'm the president of Lone Star Patriots. And then we're going to sit down. I am going to accommodate Mr. Hall, and if you have a question for him, let you ask his questions first because he wants to leave to go to another event. And then we'll move on. And it's just, Mr. Morgan's going to have a question. He'll raise his hand. He'll ask the questions. If someone has already asked a question, please don't ask the same question again. Just because you didn't like the first answer, let's move on. Let's this is important. These people are here to represent us and work for us, and we need to get to know them to the best of our ability. So if you guys will all come up here, I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 chairs. If you think we need another chair, bring your own chair. Candidates we have with us this evening is Helen Kerwin, Matt Wiley, Brandon Hall, Dale Hanna, Lyndon Laird, Troy Fuller, Tim Good, and Ronnie Riddell. So, even if they're not in your precinct or your district, ask the question because they have to work together in the future. So, I'm going to let Mr. Hall introduce himself and tell you what he's running for, why it's a little bit important, and if you have a question for him, we'll start there.
Sure. Well, thank you so much, and it's great to see all of y'all tonight. And I appreciate the opportunity. We're actually headed to a Fort Worth School Board meeting tonight. It's very important. They're voting on a new health curriculum, and so we're excited about that. But I am running for State Board of Education, and I think it's an important position. If you look at the State Board of Education today, you see plenty of representation for the educational establishment, but parents are underrepresented. We can see that with a lot of the indoctrination that we've seen come in, a lot of the concerning materials in our libraries, and our state is ranked, 40th by some people's measures, even lower by others, and so it's clear what we're doing right now is not working. And so I'm running to give our students an excellent education, get the indoctrination out of our classroom, and put parents back in charge. I'd be happy to take your questions.
Hey, I have a question for you. I'm Georgia Head, and I represent Families Engaged for Effective Education, and I also spoken to Mr. Hall before. I think you're a fine conservative gentleman. I just would like to ask you, Pat Hardy has actually done a very, very good job. There's been a couple of hit pieces that have been mailed out with some very incorrect, downright lies on them about things she had stood for that's not true. How do you feel about that?
So I would say, the things that have been sent out, unfortunately, they're definitely not lies. And if you look at the bottom, they've been sourced, just for those of you who maybe did not get them in the mail, there was a piece talking about critical race theory. Because when the critical race theory bill came up for consideration and it was on Governor Abbott's desk, Pat Hardy did very publicly call on the governor to veto the bill. And so that's been sent out, absolutely true. The other one would have been the pro-life issue. When there was a measure from delegates like myself, we went to the state convention in 2022 to teach children that life begins at conception and the value of life. Pat Hardy came out, spoke against that measure, and said that we should be well enough for them. So that's kind of the basis of where they're at. I understand where you're coming from, but that's really, kind of the source for those things.
Okay, have you spoken to her personally about this?
Some of it, yeah. And we've been in a lot of forums together. I know kind of how she explains these things. There are things that a lot of people find concerning them.
Okay. Because I disagree with that, anyway, but I don't have it in front of me, so I was unprepared. But let's see what. I've got another question, so thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for that question. I appreciate it. Yes, sir?
I'd like your explanation the difference between choice and voucher system. Which one are you for? Which one would you never see?
Yeah, let me give you kind of just a little bit of an example here, a story. So my wife is, she grew up in a home with 7 children, and her dad is a single dad, and she's from Chicago, so don't hold that against her. She's a Texan now. But she's from Chicago, so obviously really loves schools, right? Full of gangs and drugs and violence. And her dad had the opportunity to pull his kids out and put them in a really good Christian school where they're actually getting a really good education in an uplifting environment. But it unfortunately only lasted a couple of years because while he's trying to pay, exorbitant property taxes that are funding, just like we have here in Texas, they're very, very high. So he's funding the public schools at the same time that he's trying to pay tuition. And unfortunately, even here in Texas, that just puts school choice out of reach for many families. We can say, oh, they already have the choice, they can already send their kids wherever they want to go. But the reality is that I do believe the money should be able to follow the student. I do believe universal school choice, education savings accounts, vouchers, whatever you want to call them, because our students will really be able to thrive when parents can decide where the kids go to school. And that's the way we empower them to do that. So thank you for that question.
Appreciate it.
Hello, sir. Thank you for running, Greg Cooper. Two-part question.
Yeah.
First one is the federal government has made some changes to Title IX. They kind of pushed it out to school districts.
Yeah.
Where they're going to make transgender and LGBTQ part of the protected class. And there's some things that the state can do to mitigate that through some local policies. What is the state board of education can do as far as that? And then the second question is education 4.002. There's only 4 goals in public education, just 4. Exemplary performance, exemplary, in reading, writing of English language, exemplary performance in social studies, exemplary performance in math, and exemplary performance in science. School districts across the state become a jack of all trades, masters of none, and those core competencies are suffering. What state board of education can you do to mitigate Title IX from the federal government being pushed down, and to refocus on some of those core competencies?
Yeah, thank you for that question. And Title IX is a big problem. Taking any money at all from the Federal Department of Education. I know many of you in the room here were at the Cleveland Republican Women Forum, and a similar question I asked about the Federal Department of Education. I think it should be abolished. Obviously, I wouldn't have that vote as a state board of education member. But I do think Texas, as much as possible, needs to start disentangling ourselves from Title IX. And I know it funds a lot of things, for local public schools. So what's going to have to happen? We're going to have to, as a state board of education member, we're going to have to call on the legislature for the state to step up a little bit more, kind of unencumber ourselves, from that Title IX. But yeah, Title IX is extremely concerning. And I think going forward, there is a lot of, will. I think, obviously, I hope to get elected. I know that I'm going to go to battle against a lot of this stuff, but I think we're really going to face the problem is from the pressure that's coming from the federal government. So we have to have a plan to address it. And my plan will be just to try to separate ourselves as much as possible. The state needs to step up and fund some of those grants that Title IX is funding now. That's going to really help those school districts. I think as far as going back to the core competencies, we need to return to the fundamentals of education. We're 40 years in education, and that's because we have indoctrination, we have critical race theory, we have social emotional learning, and all of these social things are coming into the classroom. We're falling behind on reading, writing, arithmetic, science, social studies, the things that really matter, and the things that are really going to prepare our children to go to the workforce tomorrow. So if we get a lot of that social stuff out of the classroom, we're going to remove that stress from teachers, remove it from students, and I think we'll have more time and resources to focus on core competencies. So thank you.
I'm a school board member in Godly ISD, and I'm also a homeschool parent because of multiple reasons. Governor Abbott has said that if vouchers pass, there will be accountability on homeschool. There will also be standardized testing for homeschool parents. I'm adamantly opposed to the voucher system. I do understand that property taxes are outrageous. I pay them as well, and I also pay to educate my own children. However, I'm adamantly opposed to vouchers and the accountability and how it will make all lanes of education a government lane of education, and the government does not have the right to tell us how to teach our children.
Yeah. So I agree with you in the fact that we don't want strings attached, right? And I'm really glad you brought that up. So when we talk about school choice, that's really that's the issue with school choice, is that wherever you take government money, if it doesn't have strings attached right now, eventually they're going to come down the road. And so, I started school in Springtown Elementary, which is a small town in Parker County, where I live. But my mom also told me in 3rd grade, she felt like that homeschooling was the best fit for me, so I'm a homeschool graduate myself. And I really believe in the sovereignty of the home. And I believe that the government has no place in the home, no place with homeschooling. And I also believe, private schools. I work with private schools in ministry. My wife taught at a private school. We do not want standardized testing or the government having any say in what happens there. I think the answer to this is pass a clean bill, first of all. So there's no strings attached to the bill that's passed. We continue to fight that, but it has to be an opt-in system, right? So you don't necessarily have to take education savings accounts if you don't want to. So a homeschool mom could say, we don't want to take advantage of that. That's totally your choice. And then no government money, no strings attached. Private schools should also have the opportunity to opt into the system. So if they would prefer not to accept ESAs, they don't have to worry about STAR testing, which that would be extremely conservative. See the STAR test attached to homeschooling or Christian schools, private schools. So if they don't want to ever deal with any of those strings attached, like let's say if the Democrats would ever take control of the legislature or anything like that, they would just need to choose not to opt into that system. And I think private schools should be able to say, no, we're not going to accept ESAs. If they want to accept them, that's fine. Same with homeschool parents. That's kind of how I answer that. Thank you for asking that question.
Hi, recently you've been quoted as saying you do whatever the TEA tells you to do.
No, ma'am. I don't believe that's that.
That's the information that I've received, and I was just wondering if that's the case, then why should we elect you?
No, that's the opposite. So, I think that's important that as DOE members elected by the people, right? That's what makes us different from the TEA bureaucracy. And so, I'm running to reflect the conservative Christian values in my district, and so I'm gonna, I have a biblical worldview, and so that's kind of how I'm gonna filter every decision. And secondarily, I'm listening to God first, obviously, but I'm gonna listen to the taxpayers and the parents of SBOE 11. Right now, we have too much representation, as we mentioned before, for the educational establishment, for teachers' unions. We have SBOE members taking money from them. We need somebody who is going to represent the parents, and that's what I'll do. That's definitely something that I've never said. I apologize. I'm not sure where you got that, but it's definitely false information. Thank you for addressing it, though. Appreciate it.
Okay, you're going to be the last one because we got to move, but we could be here all night on education. So let's move on after this.
One thing you might make a statement if you agree with or not, but some of the proposals about the vouchers or school choice, the money went to the kid, but then the school district still got a chunk of money for that, for your kid. I'm so absolutely opposed to that. If their money goes with the kid, then all the money should go with the kid, and then the school district shouldn't get any. I don't care if they're a big school district, a little school district, or what. If they're duplicating money flowing for educating a child, I think it's crazy. But the other thing I'd like you to comment on, I heard Pat Hardy talk one time, and she was saying that so much of the things that, like you're talking about, or we talk about, like the values we have, the things we want to see or not, are absolutely outside of the control of the position that you're running for. And she was saying that, like, one of her main functions, I believe she said, was recommending books, but that even that book list is not mandatory for the schools. So the point being that a lot of the things you're talking about that you would like to address, it's my understanding, maybe aren't within the position. Can you speak to that?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So when there's not the will to stand up against what's going on, and you're not bold enough to really take action, then what you want to say is that I have no purview over that, right? It's just like library books. This is a big one that's happened. It's kind of like, well, it's up to the local ISDs, the local school boards, to decide what books go in the library. Now, the State Board of Education has been given purview over the library books. We can set the library standards for school libraries and say, this is what can come in, and this is what cannot. And that's where, even in Fort Worth ISD, because they got rid of a book called Gender Queer, which is just a flat-out pornographic book. Just terrible. I wouldn't recommend anybody looking at it, but our students had access to this until this year in Fort Worth ISD. And so that is not a local control issue. Of course, we all want our local school boards to have local control over these, over educating our children and making those decisions. But something like pornography coming to our schools, that's a common sense across the board statewide issue. And so I definitely haven't spoken on, any issues that are not within my purview. Even school choice, we wouldn't have a direct vote on vouchers, but if you'll notice, all of the SBOE members are constantly talking about school vouchers and school choice because they're the most influential voice in education outside of the legislature and outside of the country who have a direct vote. And so they have a big say in this. They have a huge influence on educational policy in general. They also approve every new charter school directly. So they have the power to approve them or turn them down. That's a big component of school choice. We need good charter schools, and we don't need to have arbitrary standards for turning them down. So everything that I speak on is under the purview. Of course, ESAs, vouchers, I get asked about it a lot. I know I don't have a direct vote, but I'll always be an advocate for school choice with that. And so, and then could you remind me of the first part of your question? I got off on the second part. I'm so sorry.
About the money going to the schools when a homeschool is pulled out.
Oh, yes, it is.
Like double.
For sure. So, the thing with that, and I definitely understand your concern with that, I think in the Senate bill, kind of the main school choice bill here, they had that money going to the schools for an extra 5 years. The problem would be, and I think it's a little bit of a bleeding edge with school choice. People say, we passed school choice and our schools are just going to empty out. They're just going to flood out. And the thing is, I live in Parker County. I have teachers in my church. We have many of the school board members there. We have pretty good schools.
I don't think there's going to be a huge demand for everybody to just pull their kids out automatically if ESA is passed. So that's, first of all, I don't think there's going to be a ton of that. But for the students who do leave, right, it would be an adjustment for that school district to kind of have that money coming out of the, if the money completely followed them. And so I do support, personally, just, at least 5 years, I think, just to give that school time to adjust. And so it's not just like immediately the next year they have, they're missing that money. They need to have, a number of years to kind of adjust to these things. And so that's,
You're willing to force me to pay for that?
I don't want to. The problem is already made it now, and so I think it's just not an overnight thing, personally. But I appreciate the question.
What's happened? Because this is one by state, they lost over 15,000 students in 2 years. And so
No.
money.
Yeah, it was.
Well, don't give them some money.
Well, and I would say if a student chooses to opt into the ESA system, then they get a chance to adjust. Not just if the student leaves. I think, right now that money needs to, if the student leaves, the school doesn't need to be funded for students that are not there. Just with ESA, it's a big, school choice is a big shift. And so you kind of can't do that just overnight. It doesn't give the school a chance to adjust. So.
Of course, if they were good, then it wouldn't be an issue.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay, so let's thank Brandon Hall for the So let's move on. This is, I say fair game, and whoever you have a question for, address them. If it's for 2 candidates, address each of them, let them answer their question. So who wants to start? There we go. Pass her the microphone.
Okay, for Dale Hannon, 2 questions. You ran as a Democrat, and then all of a sudden you turned Republican. All these years later, yet they run against you. And then, can you explain to us why Tim was released from his job in the death penalty case the day he decided to run for office?
I can.
And then, why don't you follow the rules on the signs like everybody else? Why don't you have a disclaimer? I know your signs are paid for like everybody else.
It's over there. If you look real close, it's over there. Yeah, it's over there. So the first question, Democrat. First of all, my name is Dale Hannon. I'm the district attorney in Johnson and several counties. Have been for a number of years. I was born and raised here. Grew up here. Biggest part of my family, my kids, my grandkids live here. I've got skin in the game here. Back to your question. I was assistant DA in Tarrant County for about 5 years in the late 70s. The then district attorney, John McClain, asked me to come down here and be an assistant, and I did. At the time, the county attorney was Dan Bowler. Well, in 1984, John McClain became a district judge, and Dan Bowler became district attorney, and they asked me if I would accept the appointment of the Commissioner's Court to be county attorney. And I did. I ran as a Democrat. In 1980, that's all there was in this county, was Democrats. There was no elected Republican officer, period. I ran unopposed in 1984. In 1988, I ran again unopposed as a Democrat because there was no Republicans here. There was not. In 1992, I ran as a Democrat against the Democrat District Attorney Dan Bowler. Again, there was no elected Republican office holders in Johnson County in 1992. There wasn't. And you say, well, what about the party versus then versus now? The Democratic Party was different back in those days. The Democratic Party left me. In 2000, and I ran again in 1996 as a Democrat, again, unopposed. In 2000, the elected Republican leaders asked myself and Bill Moore, who was then a Democrat, who is now the county attorney. They said, we want you to change. We looked at it, considered it, and we decided to change. Because again, the Democratic Party left us. A prosecutor should not even be partisan. This Republican and Democrat for a prosecutor, it shouldn't even be the way it is. We are conservative law enforcement officials. But that's the way our state is. In 2000, I ran as a Republican, had a Republican opponent, and prevailed and won that election. In 2000, myself and Bill Moore helped change this county to be a big county. Now that is the truth. Have been one ever since. Last time I ran a contested election was in 2000 as a Republican and prevailed. So the answer to your question is, in the 80s and the early 90s, that's all there was as far as elected officials. That's all there was. If you were going to be an office holder, you were going to be a Democrat back in those days. If I would be condemned for that, so be it. I can't do anything about it. I've done the same good job then as now. The party affiliation, to be honest with you, has not got anything to do with the job we do in the courthouse. It just does not. And that offends you, I'm sorry, it's the truth. It's the truth. I've been a prosecutor all my life. Never been anything else. And if I'm being condemned for being a Democrat, the 3 times I was elected to that Democrat, it was unopposed. You know, I don't get that, but the second question was, why was Mr. Good terminated? Let me tell you. I made it known that I was going to seek re-election. My opponent came in and said he was thinking about running. I said, okay. If you do, and my administrative assistant, Mary Cashin, was in on this conversation. She was here tonight. I said, if you do, you're not going to be able to stay here. The reason being, you cannot have 2 people driving a car at the same time. You cannot. It's impossible. You can't. You can't make the decisions that we have to make in that courthouse on people's lives and have someone second guessing every decision you make. You cannot do that. It's impossible. It's a recipe for disaster. In fact, after I told him that I was going to run, he said he was thinking about it. I said, okay, you think about it. I said, if you do, you're not going to be able to stay. He filed, and the decision was made that he had to leave the office. Did I enjoy that? I absolutely did not. I hated it. I didn't get elected to make easy decisions. You get elected to make difficult decisions, even though you don't like them. But that's what needed to be done for the good of the office. To keep the decisions that are made to be made on the evidence in those cases, and not whether somebody is looking over your shoulder and is going to be critical of you. The big picture is we had to make those decisions. We had to do that. And I checked with personnel, Jones County Personnel Office, to see what the situation was and to get their advice. Randy Gillespie. Check with other elected officials. How would you handle this? And I made that decision, and I agonized over it. I did not like it. I let him stay on board until he made the decision to run so that he could continue to get a paycheck. The decision he made to run, he knew the consequences. He knew he was not going to be able to stay. And other officials that I checked with said that's the way they would handle it. The death penalty case that is going on right now.
Okay, so let's keep it to what we're doing. You answered the question. You got to move on to the next one.
Okay.
The death penalty case has nothing to do with her question.
Did you ask me that?
Or did you ask? Okay, I'm sorry. Yes. I mean, he's just going in there.
Yeah.
Indefinitely. Okay, I'm sorry. Yes.
He's going to take it down.
Oh, okay, sorry. Yeah.
Well, let me tell you, that's exactly all. What's going on right now? That's the 5th one that I've done. 4 of them before. We have 3 lawyers on that death penalty case right now. It's going forth. The evidence, I don't want to get into any of the things because it's a pending case, and ethically I cannot comment on a pending case. The big picture is the case is going forward, it'll get a result. And maybe that answers your question.
Okay, so I'm going to do the next question. My next question is for Helen Kerwin. Okay, my concern, Ms. Kerwin, is that every ad promoting you is Governor Abbott handpicked you because you were going to be the person that would work the best with him. My question is, everything that I see is Governor Abbott and Helen. So you're vying to represent this district in Austin. What are you going to do for the people? Because I have yet to hear what Helen Kerwin is going to stand for with the people. All I hear is Governor Abbott handpicked you. Are you an establishment puppet, or are you going to go to Austin to work with people?
Well, that's several answers I'm going to give you for that. Number one, I don't know if all of you remember Arlene Wilderness. Raise your hand if you remember State Representative Arlene. I worked with her back when I was the mayor and commissioner in Glenroe. She's the one that asked me to run for this office that I needed to jump in. The second person that asked me to run for this office was my daughter, Brooke, who was involved in she started the Texas Public Policy Foundation, crafts conservative policy, national level with the American folks. I am conservative 100%. Anyone that knows me knows that I will always vote conservative every time. It's part of my stump speech. So for me to be supported by Governor Abbott and for me to support Governor Abbott is a given. Now, if his name is on every ad, which I don't believe it is, excuse me? It is. It's on every ad? Yeah. Well, it's not, okay, it's in the ad. It's not, he didn't pay for the ad. Is that what you're saying?
No. Okay, sure. So community speaking, the radio ad, Governor Abbott, yes, endorses Helen Kerwin, yes, and she is going to do what I want. Yes. Nobody in this room wants vouchers. Governor Abbott wants vouchers.
Well, number one, I think he's fabulous because I'm running number one to secure the border, and that was one of the things I told Arlene that I would get in this race for. I'm terrified of what's happening, not only with the immigrants, but with the fentanyl, and the cartels, and the terrorists. And I think he's doing the best job of any governor in the country, and so I am in full support of him for that. He's a conservative like I am. So I couldn't be a puppet. His votes would be with mine. I believe in election integrity. I believe in personal choice. We disagree on it. And what I have to say about that is I'm all vouchers. It all started with vouchers that went right to the private schools. It's changed now. And it needs to change more. I understand that since I got in this race. I don't agree with money going right to the private school, which was the original concept of this. But I do agree with families being able to have part of the decision-making process for their kids. I know everyone in this room is against it, but I did pull it out. I brought them with me. If you are interested in what I found in that bill, which is 177 pages long, which you told me about, when I read it, because when I first campaigned, I didn't read the whole bill. I didn't just pick the bullets out. And when I had read it, I understood the other position. And so what I want to tell you is that, yes, I am for parent empowerment, 100%. There's some really good things in that bill that the people don't know. It's not allowed, it isn't out there because it's all about the vouchers.
But I also understand and I support Governor Abbott in this bill as far as parental plan, the decision-making process. There's a lot of work that needs to be done to make it work and to make it right for our kids, for our teachers, for both sides of the fence. And I think it can be done in the next session. And it's been good that we've had this argument. I mean, it was good, I think, that it was voted down. But I think it is, because of that, it's going to make it a really, really good bill for everyone.
All right. You got any questions? Did y'all bring your questions? Oh, okay, Scott.
So I have a question since, for Linda Ware and Helen Kerwin. So I would ask Brandon Hall, but he's not here. So I have snapshots of a college textbook of mine from a sociology course I took about a year ago. And in the book, since we're on the topic of looking into the textbooks, having it reviewed for, state finance, school districts and colleges, one of them had a intro paragraph to the euthanasia topic. One of them had discussed the social security crisis and said that there not being enough money, state-sponsored euthanasia may have to become a reality. And then it said, what public official would decide who is more socially valuable than another person? So if that's going on in our public colleges, they're at least funded in part by state grants, state education money. How would either of you look into the issue? What perspective would you use? And how would you effectively look into reviewing those textbooks for our college students?
Well, first and foremost, I'm a big believer in limited government, especially federal government. So I think that I would certainly, not knowing enough about this issue, I have to tell you, I've not done any research or study on it yet, but just using what I'm thinking about the concept, I would certainly have to, committees are the kiss of death, I've seen. So I don't know, but you would probably have to form committees, nonpartisan committees to review what you're saying is in the textbooks. I don't know what they're in the textbooks. I would certainly think a decision of that significance needs to be in the local arena and not in the federal. So I would certainly at least believe in states' rights and even bring it down even more.
Jacob, the issue of euthanasia, that of course is against the law of the state as of right now. And I would oppose any sort of changes to that. I believe in the sanctity of life, of all life, and we certainly oppose any sort of legislation favoring or instituting or governing euthanasia in any form. And as well, we're opposing detailed references to it in our college and school textbooks.
Okay, I think Pat Hardy just got here, but does anyone, we've got several other candidates up here. Oh, here we go.
I have a question for both district attorney candidates. I've heard a lot about, and if I misquoted, I apologize, the drug task force, the STOP task force. And I've heard it's been presented that that's the end-all be-all task force and that solved a lot of problems. And moving forward, is there any opportunity for other task forces like child trafficking task force? And I've heard, it's come across discounting crimes against women because women change the story afterwards. And that's a concern for me with some of what I come across. So I'd like some clarification on that. And then moving forward, is there opportunities for other task force, or is this stopping the end-all be-all?
You guys hear me okay? So STOP is fantastic. I absolutely love STOP. Vander Sparks is here. He's starting task force. That is narcotics task force. So STOP is a perfect example of how when you have a specific type of crime, you get that special trained officer to get that crime. So STOP is for banning narcotics, and any other things, but narcotics is the primary thing. Yes, we need to have other task forces specifically designed for other types of crimes as well. We can't have narcotics undercover agents do the same cases like domestic alcohol with women or review cases with kids that sexually abused. We have a separate unit to look at that. So absolutely, I think going forward, anytime you have a crime popping up in Johnson County, you got to find a way to address it. And the problem is, the regular patrol officers, they are not equipped to handle those cases. Even some of the detectives and some of the agencies are not equipped to handle those cases. It would be nice to put people together in a specialized unit like a child safety unit or a family violence unit, and they know all the ins and outs of those specific training just for that. We have that for our doctors, right? You got your general practitioners, but then we have something specific happen, you go to special. And that's what the task forces are. They're specialized units to address specialized problems.
Well, Larry Sparks is here. He's over here, and you can tip your head if you want to, Larry. This is the commander of the Stop Narcotics Task Force. They do a fabulous job. The Stop Narcotics Task Force is not under the district attorney's office. This is the way it was formed. Agents from various police organizations contribute people to one location. The sheriff's office does, the Burleson Police Department does, the Cleveland Police Department does, the Joshua Police Department does. They come to one location, and they are under the command of a commander such as Larry Sparks. They're not under the direction of the district attorney's office. The district attorney's office prosecutes criminal cases in court. These are investigators that go out and make these drug cases. They have been very successful. In the future, what we need to do is expand the task force. We need more agents. It's just that simple. We need more municipalities contributing not money, but people. Donate an agent to the task force. The more agents you have, the more drugs you're going to take off the street. It's just that simple. It is the most effective organization as far as taking drugs off the street in the county. Mark Getz, undercover agent for a long time in the task force. He's an investigator in our office now. He can testify to that. If there's any question about the effectiveness of the task force, I don't think there is. But it needs to be expanded. When you take drugs off the street, you're taking off a lot of crimes that are connected with them. Burglaries, breaking into cars, stealing IDs, you name it, and it's being taken off the street. And I include alcohol in that. Alcohol is certainly a drug that you got to watch like a hawk. Now, talking about the second part of your question, domestic violence and
in the forum, in the forum here, when our Patriot groups earlier, you made comments it was not worth or a waste of time about crimes against women based on that they changed their story and it's a waste of resources.
Well, this is what you get into. This is a typical case. Two people get into a dust up, as I call it in Texas, an argument. It escalates. Physical violence occurs. Police are called, they arrive, somebody's going to jail. That's the policy of these law enforcement agencies. Will it be the man or the woman or whatever? Somebody's going to jail. The next morning, one of them says, you know, I don't know that I really want to do this. I don't know that I really told them everything that was happening. Maybe it was as much my fault as his. And I don't know that I want to pursue this. Because they've got a couple of kids. And you have to make a decision when that victim comes in and says, I don't want to do this. I want to give us another chance. Maybe they go to a batterer's intervention program. Give us another chance. Because you got people's lives that are affected. You got kids. You got the parties. And then you say, well, let's just go ahead and take it to court with what we got. And that victim says, I'm not going to testify. Have any of you been in a courtroom and the only one that wants a conviction is the prosecutor? It's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. When the victim gets up and says, I'm not going to testify, I do not want him prosecuted, I want him back home, I want to make another run at this, I want our kids to have a father, a family. Who do you think we are as prosecutors to make that decision and to deny them that right? You've got to use some common sense when you get in these situations. It's just not as simple as saying, well, yeah, let's go ahead and go forward. So, I don't know if I've answered your question or not, but that's the truth.
Does anyone else have a question?
And we've got constables here. I actually do have a question for the constables running for Mr. Riddell and Mr. Wiley. So I really don't know how many employees are in a constable's office. If it's just you, if you have secretaries or whatever. So my question is, how important is your work relationship with your employees in your office? It's in the middle, y'all jump. Whoever gets there first, you know.
Obviously, work relationship within the offices is very important. One of the good things is that I see employees as assets. Right? A good employee is an asset to further the goals of the office and to serve people better. What you don't want to do is have, in my opinion, a high turnover rate. You want to have a good, steady workforce and have good relationships with your employees, so obviously they can further the goal and serve the public. So having interpersonal skills with your employees is very important and very critical that you maintain good relationships.
I would echo that sentiment, but I'll also add that there's other factors that get people to come and go within an office. And being the elected official of the office, no matter how big or how small it is, when you have employees in there, there's other factors that come in there. And those factors are, I believe, train them, give them the tools, let them go out, let them use what you train them, build upon that, get the continuing education that they need to do their job, be effective with their job. The employees that we have, the employees that leave many offices, sheriff's office battles that I had one employee that was going to leave my office and go to another local constable's office that was on his way to work, and which was Constable Fuller's office. Why? Made a little bit more money. So things that are out there, there's other factors in there on why, if anybody's been over employees or had employees work for you, there's other factors of why they come and go. And I do believe that when you get people in there, you hire them in, you give them the tools, you give them the training, you let them go and experience that, and you're there to help them. It's also a twofold relationship. And I'm not a micromanager. I rely on my staff to come and say, hey, I need help. Had issues today come up on some stuff that we were doing. They reached out, we got that problem. So it's always a two-way street when you have employees that factor in.
Constable Fuller, could you answer that question also about your employee relationship?
Kind of redundant here in the same thing. I mean, I value my employees. I believe in empowering them to be able to go out and do their job, to be able to do thinking on their feet, and be able to make decisions. And then when the decisions go outside what they know their purview is, then they come to me and we make a decision together. Over my years working at the sheriff's office and now in the constable's office, I mean, I fully believe on leading your employees and being able to work with them, not against them. In my office, we have 4 smart officers, including myself. I got one that works environmental crimes and one that does civil process, and then one that does court crimes and then does civil process. And then I got two an office manager and a secretary, and all of them have a right and have a say in the things we do until it reaches a point where it becomes my decision. And most often, all that's resolved. We're working some good cases right now that are very important to you as the citizens of our county. Thank you.
And am I the only one to ask questions in this room?
This question is for Ms. Hardy. Welcome, thanks for coming. It's the same question that I asked the other candidate. It's two-part. Title IX just had some changes come down where they're talking about seriously putting LGBTQ and transgenderism as a protected class, and what can be done at the state level. And I know you're a teach lane, so I don't know how much that is, but you do have a lot of influence with that role. What can be done to prevent that? And then the second one is Ed Code 4.002. There's only 4 goals in public education: mastery of reading, writing, and English, mastery of science, mastery of mathematics, and these core competencies. And education has become such a broad swath to where those core competencies have significantly suffered. What can be done moving forward to come back to those core competencies and then protect Texas values against federal government pushing down ideology like LGBTQ and transgenders and protected class?
I hope I left my house at 9 o'clock this morning, and I am just now getting to this meeting, so I'll have to maybe ask you to repeat your questions.
No problem.
One of the things that you said about the idea of core competencies and that why are we, what is the deal with that? Why are we spending so much time on other things? I spent 30 years as a classroom teacher, and I was very blessed to have the opportunity to teach when I did, because you could really teach. I mean, you really taught. And believe me, my kids would tell you that she was the hardest teacher I ever had, but she taught me a lot. And so the thing about it is, I totally agree with you. We've gotten off base. I just left Fort Worth ISD. I live in Fort Worth ISD, and the topic tonight was on the sex education. And I said, I really would just like them to concentrate on teaching the third graders how to read. And then we'll worry about this other stuff. But they spent inordinate hours in meetings talking about something and spending money ridiculously. $2.something million on a program that was not approved by the state. And now they have another program that's up, that's a very good program, that is only $72,000. We found out about it from Georgia. And it's a very clean product. It's excellent. It really is. And they're debating whether or not to spend $72,000. Because we already have a $2 billion one that's horrible. But I agree with you. I think we have to spend more time with what are we about in school. And there's just so many other things that are getting in there. And what you're talking about on Title IX, I'm not sure what's going to come down, but the legislature stood firm on the idea of that. I have always been against the gender thing. We make sure our health standards, unlike the program that Fort Worth ISD has adopted or was trying to adopt for that one, we don't even talk that stuff, gender stuff, anything at all. We've put it in, it's mentioned in the high school health or 8th grade health, possibly what the idea of this is a problem, but we don't go into pushing an agenda. How many of you know that in Austin, Texas, they have in their elementary schools, they have the LGBT flag flying over their schools? And that's pushing an agenda. And we should never, ever do that. You asked the third question, I'm missing one of them.
Well, it was those two, the core competencies, and then LGBTQ transgender. Like at the state level, what can be done to prevent it? And it's money.
Yeah.
It's strength.
Well, but see, in Texas, our college is not supposed to have LGBTQ. And I think that the legislature will stand firm. To be quite honest, on the State Board of Education, there are 5 Democrats, 4 of the 5 Democrats would be against the messing up with the Title IX, which is kind of, a lot of people don't realize that, but I was, belly aching about it, and we agree with you. This is ridiculous. And for people oddly enough with daughters who saw their daughters being mistreated in that regard.
Is there a way that the state can prevent? I mean, nobody wants to go against the independentness of the independent school district, but can the state prevent the schools from going sideways over money? Because they take money, and then from the federal government, I mean, the ESSER 3 grant was massive.
Which error was that?
So what came in with that?
There's one way to change all that. Elect Trump. Then we wouldn't have to worry with it. But I think it is something that's under the purview of the state of Texas. Obviously, Abbott has shown his independence from the federal government in what he's doing on the border. I have no doubt that he would be very responsible in that way. And you asked what could we do as a state board. I spend a great deal of my time. This is not really a part of what your job is in the state board, but why not take advantage of it, right? And I spend a lot of time in the legislature. I have found that sometimes sitting in my office, my home office, with my phone and my iPad is almost as effective as being in Austin. Because you can them real fast when you hear something on the hearing and so forth. So I think, and I don't know if this is true or not, but I personally stopped some legislation that I did not think was very good, just by being wherever I can talk to their staff people. And sometimes talking to the staff person is talking to the real person.
Yep.
Which brings up kind of an interesting thing I was going to say. There are several things that have been said about me, and I can cut those off like real fast. One is I have never, ever understood why anyone would just say someone was pro-abortion when I have the endorsements of all the anti-abortion groups. And some of you have gotten those on the email and so forth. They've been pushing those out very strongly the last few days because they were appalled that had happened. One of the other things that I've been accused of has to do with critical race theory. I kind of like to give you a background. Are y'all explaining this?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
Okay.
That was my question. I was going to ask your opponent accused you of being pro CRT. Would you like to clarify your stance on
Yes, I would. 4 years ago, when the legislature was getting ready to go into session, I called Stephen Stinners. I don't know if you know him, but he works with the governor. And I said, Steve, I don't see any anti-CRT bills. And Steve said, what is CRT, Pat? And I said, well, obviously you don't listen to Tucker Carlson, and you know what I'm going to say. So anyway, I told him and I explained to him, and I said, we need some legislation on that. And so he, Steve is unbelievably good at getting things done. Next thing you know, we have some stuff talking about CRT and legislation. They gave the House the call and the Senate the call. The House person came up with a bill that had, well, first of all, it only affected social studies classes. And if you know anything about this, it is in every class, even in math. I know it's hard to believe they can make math. Think about it. They can ask discussion questions or, those hated discussion, what do you call it? Word problems. Word problems, yes. The word problems can have all kinds of biases in them. And science, they've done this. So you don't just cut it off. The House bill said nothing but the social studies. That was one thing. The other thing, and I listened to this like at 2 a.m, and I was just talking to myself because no one else is right. Me saying, no, don't do that. They let the Democrats take over that bill. It was so frustrating. And what they did was, there's one Democrat, and Tony is one of the smartest people in the legislature, his name is Tallarico. And Tallarico, some of you know him, because he is so smart, Tallarico kept adding stuff to this bill. And it looked like a Christmas tree of all these things. And it was all for social studies teachers that every year you had to do this, every year you had to do this. I'm thinking, those are not going to be done. That is ridiculous. it's not even age appropriate, blah, blah, blah. And I kept saying, cut it out. But the person carrying it for the House was trying to be nice. That's one of the problems that Republicans have. I want to be inclusive. Well, bump. This guy was pulling your strings and going all the way down the river with a whole different story. So I said, for goodness sakes, don't pass that bill. My opponent has taken that out of context and said I was against critical race theory bill. But I will share with whoever's your key person that gets stuff out to you what Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick said on my behalf after I helped them directly with SD3, which is our critical race theory. Oh, she has the verbiage. I can show you Dan Patrick saying it, but I can say it. Please vote for the Republican Pat Hargan, the State Board of Education. She helped me lead the fight to ban teaching of critical race theory last session in our schools. Please vote to keep Pat on the State Board of Education. And if you think Dan Patrick was going to say that, if I were in favor of critical race theory. That's all there is to it. So I think it was good. Can I tell them about charter schools?
No.
Okay.
There'll be a question about that later, but let's move on, okay? So my question is for both Lyndon Laird and Helen Curley. And I've asked this question before, but now that there's two people here, I'll let you answer. So the last couple of years, when the House has been in session, what has happened? They leave. They work 30 minutes, they leave. They work half a day, they leave. Special session is called, they leave. Some of that has to do with the House Speaker. But I want to know, between the two of you, if you are elected, what are you going to do to help make sure that our House representatives do their job?
Amen.
Okay, I love that question, and I'll tell you why. I have a work ethic that drives people crazy. And on top of that, I'm really, really efficient, and I'm very transparent. I know I'm bragging right now, but I am the kind of person that needs to be in that scenario. And I think they need to be accountable. They need to be answering their constituents. When they're calling to work, they need to work. So whatever it takes, or whatever I can do, and I haven't been down there, so I don't know exactly what the intricacies are, but in any way that I can improve that and move it forward and make it efficient and productive in affordable house, I will do that. I promise.
Thank you, Peggy. Folks, let me just quickly introduce myself. I am Lyndon Laird, born and raised here in Johnson County. I'm going to be your state representative. I'm an attorney at law. I've practiced for 39 years. I'm board certified by the Texas Board of Legal Specialization, and I solve problems. To answer your question, Peggy, I think one of the things I would be in favor of is replacing the current House Speaker, Dave Field. I think more than anything, any single thing that can be done, that will probably accomplish what you're talking about. I disapprove of the speaker for various reasons, and so I would vote in favor of replacing him. Thank you.
Can I get your shots? This is for Mr. Laird and Shirley. Talking about Mr. Clayton. Our representative is not here. I wanted to ask him that, but he's not here. So, and y'all may not be able to answer. He tells me that he is obligated to vote for the speaker because the caucus, they had said the caucus, and they all agreed that the caucus was good and he had to go along with it. Who in the hell is the caucus and who votes the caucus? You would never explain that to me.
Well, I don't have a direct answer to your question, unfortunately, because I've been in Austin, but I do know that very recently there was, a censure vote against Mr. Field. It was in 55-4 or something like that. And so, facing that type of censure vote, I don't think he's in a position to dictate the rules, and I want out.
Well, I'd like to know who the caucus is and where it comes from.
I'm sure they have their rules that I will be learning quickly down there, but I don't have any immediate answers to them.
Well, I believe the caucus are the recommended or chosen for the majority or the House, and in our case, they were Republicans.
So the House is voting for them.
Yes, but the problem is, and I think the next speaker needs to be chosen in the caucus. And from my understanding, that there was a problem with that big feeling. So one of the things I'm running on is that I think the caucus should have the power. We have the majority in the House.
Well, it
We should not be Democratic chairs, and we should not be any of the Democratic or Liberal.
It looks to me like the representatives should choose the caucus and be able to tell them who they want as speaker.
Exactly.
Not choose the caucus and let them choose who the speaker.
No, I think the caucus should choose the speaker.
That's not the way it is now.
No, but it needs to be that way, and that's one of the big things that I'm running on, is to make sure that happens.
Thank
I mean, how could you have a majority in your House of Representatives, and then have that happen and then have Democratic chairs be appointed? It's crazy. It's a swamp in so many ways, and I am a firm believer in term limits. I think that's one thing that will help the issue of the swampiness, and we just got to make sure we check voting records on whoever we choose to vote. Look at the records, and got to put conservatives in, keep our house conservative, get it in mind.
Thank you, Helen.
Okay, my question is to Solomon. I used to live in Fort Worth, and I know that you had ran for 2 consecutive terms for Constable, and I understand you were a Democrat. So now you're running as a Republican. How is it that we can trust you to come over here to Johnson County and run this place as a Republican?
Excuse me. First of all, I'm glad you asked that question. I'm glad to tell you that. Born and raised in the southeast side of Fort Worth. Anyone who knows anything about southeast side of Fort Worth is predominantly black neighborhood. Predominantly black understand. With that being said, I was born in a situation where I was raised as a Democrat. Just like you, just like anybody else in this room, I have a constitutional right to change the way I vote and what I believe. I have that right. But if you did some research, you would know in the last decade, I voted in every Republican primary, first and foremost. Second, if you're doing the research, I've raised money for the Republican Party, both Johnson County and Tarrant County. I'm proud to say I'm somebody who switched over. I'm proud of that fact. Now, with all being said, yeah, I did run as a Democrat. My views are very conservative. I lost. That speaks for itself. I stand on my reputation. I stand on what I do for a living. I stand on my background, my education, and my beliefs. Did that answer your question, ma'am? Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. Oh, Lonnie has a question.
I can probably talk loud enough that they are. This is for Helen and Linda Laird, and my question is, there's been some talk about Bitcoin manufacturing in our counties. And I've never heard of it here, and what is it, and how does it affect us, and what
Well, in the last couple of weeks, I've had to really try and learn about Bitcoin and biowaste. They've both been brought out. The commissioners reported biowaste last week, which was really alarming. And then the Bitcoin, which the reason I know about it is that there is a mine in Hood County, Granbury, but the neighbors that are being impacted by it are in Somerville County. And so I've been on the phone with them, and I just learned today a lot of statistics about it, which is if you are within 10 miles of a mine, there are 3 different pollutants that affect you, which is the respiratory, the sound waves, and then the respiratory, the sound waves, and the, what was the third? There's 3 of them that are really very impactful for these residents in Somerville County. And what it is, it's a mining with a high intensity of energy. Noise is the third, and that's the number 1 complaint of all the neighbors. It's 24/7. These operations, they never stop. And it's an intense mining engineering feat. And the complaints that are coming in, and Landon, you've been working on this. I think Landon, he'll be able to tell you about the petition he started, which I think is wonderful. But there are cases, years, where they're breathing, headaches, bleeding, aches, people can go that everybody is finally coming to light, asking questions. China banned them, and that's where it started. And now they're coming in here. The permitting process is almost non-existent. They've tried to go to commissioner's court on the county level. They haven't been able to get their state representative or their state senator to take this on, which shocks me, because I think that's the first thing you should do. And try and get commissioner's court. I would think health and safety, back when I was a commissioner, if you hollered health and safety, it opened a lot of doors to getting things done. And I asked the Somerville County residents about that, and they said they just, every door is shut to them. But that's what it's about. And it's something that is probably in Johnson County now. Does anyone know? It's in Cleburne or Burleson? No, it's probably coming. If we don't get some legislation to control it.
Lonnie, this is an important issue, and in fact, Helen talked about a couple of very important issues. The first issue I'd like to talk about is the Bitcoin matter that you raised. As Helen mentioned, I am actively involved with the people in Hood County and Somerville County right now in taking action to try to assist those folks over there in Somerville and Hood County. We have a petition that some 150 people have signed, and we intend to attach it to a complaint to the regulatory agencies that have jurisdiction over this Bitcoin plant. I visited the Bitcoin plant last week. I actually saw it. I stood outside the gates. I heard the thing. I felt the vibrations in my body. We had about 30 people there that I met with, and we listened to this thing and watched it operate for half an hour or so and talked about possible solutions. And for people who have never heard of Bitcoin and don't understand what it's all about, it's simply cryptocurrency. It's money that has nothing back of it. The dollar bill in your pocket, for example, is backed by gold. It's federal currency. Bitcoin is simply a note on a computer somewhere. It doesn't exist. But how they operate, how they generate the Bitcoin is this plant in Somerville County, or in Hood County, has 90,000 servers, 90,000 supercomputers that whir around the clock 24/7. 24/7. And what they do is they solve complicated mathematical problems to determine who gets how much Bitcoin in various places around the world. And these computers whirring around the clock are generating noise, high levels of noise. They're generating vibration. People tell me that the vibrations come through the walls of their homes and they can't sleep. Their animals are disturbed. The wildlife is disappearing from the area. And apparently these are Chinese nationals who are coming in and investing in these things and building them. They're buying up our land. We have foreign nationals coming in, buying up American land, and our tax dollars, or the Somerville tax dollars, are subsidizing this Bitcoin operation. And so I met with a number of people this past week about this Bitcoin issue because a lot of people have come to me and expressed concern about it. And I sort of laid out a rough 3-point plan that seemed to me would be logical and might have some impact to try to get some relief for these people. My 3-point plan is this, and this is nothing, it's not definite by any means. It's something that seems like a common sense solution that might be a starting point to try to help these people. The first part of the plan is, as Helen mentioned, is a formal complaint. I'm an attorney in law. I know how to make a formal complaint to the agencies that have jurisdiction over this Bitcoin plan. I suspect it would be the TCEQ for one. I suspect it might be the EPA, and I'm sure there are others. So we are preparing a formal complaint against all the regulatory agencies that have potential jurisdiction, and we've already gathered 150 people who signed this complaint with their name, address, and phone number, saying, yes, I've been impacted by this, is disrupting my life, injuring my animals. Many people have complained about hearing loss, tinnitus. They've complained that their animals are being disturbed and disrupted. The wildlife has disappeared. And so it's a real problem. And they have complained to the local leaders, city council and whatnot, about this noise. And nothing's being done. Nothing's being done. There's so much money involved with this Bitcoin operation that nothing's being done about it. And so part 2 of my proposed plan, first of all, we filed a complaint. Okay, the formal complaint. I suspect that a freedom of information request will go along with that. Serve an FOIA request to the various agencies involved and get what information they have. The second part of my plan is litigation. The legal procedure, probably in a U.S. District Court in Tarrant County, Texas, in Fort Worth, Texas. That court would have jurisdiction over this issue. The local courts probably are not interested in it. So we would probably want to file litigation in Tarrant County, and as part of that litigation, I would expect we would file a temporary restraining order, or a motion for a temporary restraining order. That'll get their attention. I guarantee you. For example, what I can envision is we would file a TRO asking that we shut down. Attaching 150 complaints with their stories, how they have been damaged, their families and their livestock and so on, asking that to be shut down with TRO. That probably would not happen. But it would get their attention and would probably lead to some lesser form of agreement. We could probably demand that they reduce the noise by, say, 80 or 90%, or demand that they increase the size and the height of the sound barriers around the entire plant. This thing's the size of the Pentagon. It's enormous. And these things are turning around the clock, 90,000 supercomputers, and guess what else? My information is they're going to double that capacity this year. So there will be 180,000 of these computers whirring around the clock and disrupting these people's lives out there. So that's part 2, is litigation. I might do it. Maybe a law firm that I can be affiliated with would do it, but I think that would be part 2. I understand that some Chinese investors are. Yes.
Arkansas governor got out there and spent out about 350 acres in her state. They ran the legislature to vote the bill, and then she got on and said, okay, you can't own that in our state.
Part 3 of the plan, part 3 of my plan is if and when I'm elected to be your state representative, I will have the levers of government available to me. And I can be even more effective. I'm an attorney, I'm board certified, but I can be even more effective as your state representative. I can write legislation to outlaw these things, or to limit the amount of property and land these foreign nationals can come in and buy and build these monstrosities. They're building one in Harrell County right now that's twice as big. 4 times as big.
It's Midlothian, I found out yesterday, Midlothian is building one twice one.
Midlothian is.
Where they built the solar farm. Where the solar farm is in Midlothian, all those new buildings, y'all have what they are on 607.
The Bitcoin it's the Wild West. It's largely unregulated, and Warren Buffett, the billionaire investor Warren Buffett, was talking about Bitcoin recently. And if you look at the market capitalization of Bitcoin, all the Bitcoin around the world, it's in the trillions of dollars. You know what Warren Buffett said he would give for it? Buffett said he wouldn't give $25 for all of it because nothing backs it up. There's no gold backing it up.
So, this may just be a statement, but if we are allowing foreign countries to come in and run businesses like that are outlawed in their country, and buy our land and do things in our country, in our state, then the way I want my representative to put some pressure somewhere to say, stop it. This is our state. We don't want them. And that would be my priority right up there with stopping the border and stopping any invasion into our territory.
Amen.
Yes.
That would be a lot more productive than spending all of our tax dollars trying to have special sessions and special sessions, trying to pass an agenda that we don't want.
Well, there's so much money involved in this Bitcoin operation that the local leaders don't want to touch it because it will affect their employment, for example. It may affect their tax base, okay? That's why we need to get it out of the local jurisdiction and into federal court. And by the way, Mike, I'm not beholden to any of those special interests, those Chinese special interests, or anybody. I'm not beholden to anybody. Big donors, high-flying, awesome politicians. I'll simply be beholden to you, the people of this district. Listen to you and do what you send me to do.
Okay, we're going to have 3 more questions. Let's keep it kind of simple. We're going to start here and then go down to Jamie. And then we will give everyone the opportunity to introduce themselves, tell you what they're running for, why you should vote for them. And then when we disperse, then everybody can kind of like visit and tell them what you think.
This is for the district attorneys again. At the last Lone Star Patriot groups, Mr. Hanna, you said that there has not been any public corruption in over 15 years in Johnson County. Is that because there's no public corruption? Public corruption is reported but not correctly. There's not enough evidence. As a newcomer to Johnson County, when I immediately moved here, I heard a lot about public corruption. So I thought that was, so I don't understand if there's an issue that it's all rumorville or if it's not enough evidence. And then Mr. Good, what are your thoughts on public corruption and how it's handled within Johnson County? And the reason I'm asking that question is it seems like a lot of senior law enforcement entities are supporting one person and a lot of mid-level and below is supporting the other candidate, and so there seems a lot of disparity there. So I'd like your guys' thoughts on public corruption. Thank you.
First of all, you need to understand that the district attorney's office is not an investigative agency. The investigative agencies are the sheriff's departments, the police departments. They're the ones that investigate these things. If it's a allegation of corruption in a city council, it's the municipal police department, or it's the Texas Ranger who is called in as an independent investigator. The district attorney's office does not investigate public corruption crimes. If the district attorney's office gets into every squabble between a school board member or a city council, you will not be able to continue the effective prosecution of major crimes. City councils and school boards, there's always dissension, not getting along. You can't get involved in every one of those things. First of all, they're not felonies. The district attorney's office prosecutes felonies. You don't prosecute misdemeanors. And you don't investigate. That's what the police departments do. That's what the sheriff's department does. About 10 years ago, I think it was, that we indicted a county commissioner. Was it 10 years ago, Mary? Maybe? Give or take. County commissioner's name was John Matthews. We indicted and sent him to the pen. First county commissioner in a long time that had been prosecuted and sent to the pen because it was a felony. These public corruption cases, they are brought to us for us to evaluate. We look at the evidence and decide, is this a case that warrants going forth with? You have to use your resources wisely. Because when you use your resources on one of those, you're taking it away from some major drug case. Or you're taking it away from another murder case. Or you're taking it away from a sexual abuse case. You can't get involved in every dispute of a city council or a school board. If the ranger gets involved and brings you that case, you evaluate it and see what you can do with it. So the public corruption, whether there's public corruption or not, I don't know that. I know that they have not presented us with a case of public corruption. If they do, we're going to look at it as we do all of them and see if it's a case that we can make. Is this a case a jury is going to convict? Is it worth us using those precious court resources to go after that, knowing that when we do that, we're taking away from some other case, some violent crime, some big drug case? Those are the types of decisions that the district attorney has to make. If you think you can get involved in every dispute in this county, you cannot. You've got to pick the cases that you can win. It's just that simple. Is there public corruption? There may be. Have we been presented cases with it to show by evidence that there is? We have not yet. If we do, we're going to evaluate it.
So I can agree with Mr. Hayden on one point. Do we know if there's public corruption in Johnson County? The answer is no. The problem is nobody's investigating that. The law enforcement is being stopped from investigating those cases. And so it's the whole thing. And does the DA's office have the ability to investigate? Absolutely it does. The DA's office has their own investigators. You cannot have a county where everybody's going to excursion and say there were felonies happening, public corruption happening. We are known as Johnson County is corrupt. That is a talking thing we all hear all the time. All right? If we do not get to the bottom of this is not getting little squabbles between city councilmen. This is about big time things. The fact that the state is not a felony, that's not true. Official oppression, theft, these quickly get into felony ranges. We need to, as in a DA's office, you need to be looking at other elected officials. The question everybody should be asking yourselves is, why are elected officials not looking at each other? It's the good boy system. It's the system that nobody gets in trouble with each other. We just work together to get along. I'm not rocking your boat, you're not rocking mine. So absolutely we need to look into public corruption. Is it there? I don't know. We need to see finished investigations. But there needs to be investigations. And the police need to be not prevented from stopping those investigations.
Question for Lyndon Laird and Helen Kerwin. It's two questions, actually. The first question is Title IX. The federal government does mandate that transgender biological males must compete in female sports and also use female restrooms. What will you do legislatively to ban that? Would you support a lawsuit when Kim passes on the federal government to make sure that biological males do not go into women's restrooms or compete in women's sports?
Yes.
That's my first question.
Yes. Yes, I think it's a silly idea, and I would oppose any legislation that promotes that. And if necessary, we'll write about legislation to permit.
Say, you know. No, not at all.
Second question, school choice. And my idea for school choice is instead of a voucher system, why can't we have an exemption program like a homestead exemption, but for homeschool or private school? That way you're paying less in taxes, and that money never goes to the government. So the government doesn't have the opportunity to have those strings attached because the parents keep that money, and that's true choice. So would you support something like a homestead exemption for private school and homeschool versus a voucher system?
Kayla, the school choice versus voucher issue is one of the issues that keeps coming up among the people I've spoken to. It's a complicated issue, and there are probably a number of potential solutions that might address your question. Just in general, though, I'm in favor of maximum school choice on the part of parents and caregivers. I think parents and caregivers should be able to educate their children in the way they see fit with a minimum of government control and government interference. And I believe that our education tax dollars should follow the child as opposed to being controlled by the government.
That is a really interesting proposal. It's really compelling. And I would like to really discuss that with you. I met with the homeschool, the University Homeschool Association, everybody at Links. And for any of you that don't use HBO One, they actually, if they did qualify for an ESA, only got $1,000 for homeschoolers, which is not a significant amount. But I certainly think that's a wonderful idea. You know, where it's tax exemption, it's not government money. Very, very interested in pursuing that with you, or something like that, yes. But as you all know, I'm not going to repeat myself. I am all about families being involved in the decisions for their child's education. However we can do it, I think that's a great idea.
I have a question directed to District Attorney Hannah.
Yes, sir.
And also I'd like a rebuttal from Mr. Good. I come from a family of law enforcement. You know this. My mom, my dad, 3 brothers, myself have all been police officers, or still are. My father served this county 21 years. My brother's been serving this county since 1993. I've been a law enforcement officer here since 2002. That said, a lot of my colleagues, I know a lot of police officers in this county, and a great deal of them feel like there's a disconnect with your office, and that their investigations, their voices go unheard, that they are ignored, that they have been talked down to on occasion, and that they simply have no pull in their office. And when they have a case they feel strongly about, they just not cared about. This is a 2-part question, by the way. And the secondary thing is that there are a large amount of officers who are in fear of their careers if they speak out in support of their opponent, that they could perhaps lose their career or not be able to file cases, or so on and so forth. So the 2 questions I've got for you is, if re-elected, how are you going to repair the relationship between the line officers, detectives, and your office? And are these officers at any risk of losing their careers or suffering any damages for supporting your opponent?
First of all, you've got to understand that the district attorney's office does not side up with law enforcement. You take the evidence that they give you and you evaluate it. You evaluate it individually. You don't always do what they want. That's not the way the system works. The district attorney's office has to use its experience to evaluate the evidence and see if this is going to result in a conviction, if it's going to be worthwhile to take to court, and if a jury is going to convict. We're not siding up with law enforcement. We take the investigations that they prepare and evaluate them. The problem often is that they do not have the experience in a courtroom to know what a jury is going to do. some of the rules of evidence they may not be familiar with, such as you have two co-defendants. Both of them confess. You cannot use the confession of one against the other. You cannot. Many law enforcement officers assume that you can. You cannot. That's an example of what you use when you're evaluating these cases. This county is known not as a corrupt county. This is not. Yeah, let me tell you what this county is known for. This county is known for strong prosecution. This county is known for juries that give big sentences and have for 30 years. This county is known when these Fort Worth and Dallas defense attorneys come down and they want probation. Well, this is what they do in Dallas and Fort Worth. Well, ma'am, you're not in Dallas Fort Worth. You're in Johnson County, and the law is going to be stringent, and it's going to be applied strictly, and it's going to keep drug dealers coming into this county, keep them coming back in here. This county is not known as a corrupt county. This county is known as a strong law enforcement community. It's just that simple.
I'm sad here in Bellman's probably about to be blackballed, so that was addressed. But it's a team effort. Law enforcement and DA's office is a team effort. There cannot be that separation. Any kind of complaints about the officers don't know what they're doing, they don't know what the rules of evidence, that's a lack of ED of the officers to explain. This is the evidence we need. This is the situation. When a case gets rejected, every officer deserves the right to be told, this is why this case didn't work out. Maybe the numbers are too high and we can't get you to the resources. Maybe you messed up. Maybe we messed up. But we deserve the men and women we owe it to explain to them why their cases are not going forward. We also deserve it to show them respect. There should not be fear out there that you're going to lose your job if you're speaking out for one candidate or the other. That is ridiculous. And so, is it a team effort? Are we separated? It will come down to separation of decision. You can't take up the case. I agree with Mr. Hand on that. You can't. But you have to work with law enforcement. They're not your enemy, they are your friends.
You know, real quick, we've got law enforcement officers here. Commander of the Task Force, the ex-sheriff Paul Lawford, Investigator Darrell McCraven, Chief Deputy in Sarble County for a number of years, Mark Gatz. When you get through here, you go ask them. You go up there and say, tell me about the situation with district attorney's office. Are the law enforcement officers respected? Is that a good office? What's the reputation of this county? You go ask them that. Do these guys look like the kind of guys that are going to cower? Do they look like the kind of guys that's going to lie to you? Of course not. These are the local law enforcement officials. They know they are respected when they come in. Ask Larry Sparks what kind of prosecution we get in Johnson County. I think he said in the speech it was the best in Texas. Ask Paul Alford what the reputation of this county is.
My question is actually for all of the candidates, and you'll have about 30 seconds to answer it. We can start with Chris. My question is for you guys to please list your endorsements, what endorsements you have that can kind of tell us who supports you and gives us an idea of what kind of person you are, because they probably know you better than we do. I mean, this is politics, and not everything comes out true. So
the whole politics thing, you just hit the nail right on the head. I'm currently endorsed by the sheriff that I work for. Got his endorsement quite some time ago. Other than that, I haven't really seeked out any other political endorsements, and I'm going to tell you why. The constable's race, for me, should be about the people. I don't care about the political connections. I didn't go seeking
endorsement from Mr. Hanna or, Sheriff King, none of those people. That's not my thing. My thing is about the people. And that's what we should be every day, working for the people. So it's not about the whole political endorsement, but I am endorsed by the sheriff that I work for and been employed with for quite some time.
Well, when you're doing this, go ahead, give me back to my microphone. Introduce yourself and what precinct you want to represent.
So since we're closing out, I'm Chris Salone. I'm running for Constable in Precinct 4, which is in the whole southern part of Johnson County. I've been active in law enforcement for 28 years. I got 28 years. 12 of those years were spent at the Constable's office in Tarrant County. I possess a Master Peace Officer license, a certification in civil process certification. I'm the only candidate in that race that possesses that certification. Active in the community, active in church, vigilant, just being proactive law enforcement. That's my thing. I want a better vision for the Constable's office. I want transparency. I want us to go out and go to work every day. I want us to be dedicated to the community and be visible. That's my whole thing. When I initially announced I was going to run, I didn't see that. I didn't see anyone start getting active or my opponents start getting active until after I announced. And then all of a sudden, we're back in full spectrum of running a race. And it's not about a race for me. It's about the people, connect with the people, do the job that you're sworn to do, and come to work every day. That's the only thing I'm here for, is to come to work every day and work every day for you.
I'm Helen Kerwin. I'm from Glen Rose, and my endorsements, I just got a couple days ago President Trump, which I'm very excited about, I'm mega, and Governor Greg Abbott, Attorney General Ken Paxton, Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, and Commissioner Sid Miller of Agriculture. I got his endorsement too. And Senator Ted Cruz, who I got endorsed in 2016 in Iowa. So I'm excited about all those endorsements. I believe there's two jobs if I get elected as your state legislator, and I, number one, of course, know the importance of doing the state's work, crafting bills, studying bills, understanding bills, but I also believe in helping the local government. I came up through local government, I was mayor, I was county commissioner. I loved it. It's truly in the trenches with your constituents. I have that experience. So as a state representative, I would love to be able to come back, call the mayor of Venus, call the commissioner in Johnson County and say, how can I help you with this new bill? What can I add? What can I do this? So I am very excited that I might be able to help in doing that. I am running because I love that. I love what I did. I love what I'm doing now. I am more energized every day with all the doors I'm knocking on, the people I'm talking to. It's just, it's a beautiful district. The diversity of little old Glen Rose, beautiful rural Cleburne, Burleson by Fort Worth, and it's just like 3 different countries. It's fascinating, and I love them all. I believe in working hard. Teddy Roosevelt said, one of life's greatest prizes is to work hard at work worth doing. I firmly believe in that. My number one reason, though, for running, other than securing the border, is to protect our conservative, precious Texas values that I see disappearing with the Democrats and the liberal-leaning votes in Austin. It just scares me. I'm old hat conservative, and I will do everything I can to protect those for future generations. Thank you.
I'm Constable Matt Wiley, the current constable in Precinct 1. Precinct 1 has the southwest corner of the county, southern Joshua, all the way down to Covington in the west. Been a constable for 17 years, been a cop for 32. Started in this county in 1989. My whole career has been on the county level. I've chosen to stay on the county level. I believe that is where law enforcement is the most accountable to the people that we serve. When we get the calls, we have a duty, and we're truly there to help. With that being said, we strive to do that all the time. If somebody calls me, we go to help. I'm geared that way, have that truly servant heart, that if we can help, if we can give people second chances, talking about employers as employees as the question was presented earlier. I do believe in that. With that being said, the endorsements, the supporters that I have, I can't list them all, but my campaign financial report is on there. County Clerk's office has that online. Please ask them to look at that. The biggest support endorsement that I have is from my wife, my family. Thankful for that. My mother actually had to step in for me because I had another commitment one day. I'm thankful for that. Bob Offord, retired sheriff, 20 years Johnson County, is my stepdad. Proud to say that. I've told many people over the years that one thing that I didn't get in law enforcement in Johnson County was being able to work for him, either when he was with the task force or at the sheriff's office or what. That relationship I didn't get. But I had that coming in, my dad, my mom, my brother, my granddad, all law enforcement background. So I truly believe that I come from that servant heart, that servant attitude, wanting to help. I have a college degree from Tarleton State University. I did that when I was 51. I'm 53. Yeah, I've been out of college for 2 years. Something that I should have done years ago. I also did that with my daughter. She graduated TCU. She's a nurse at JPS. So it was a cool thing. I'll just be honest with you. And so to me, things that I can do to better myself, to serve my precinct, ultimately the county, that's what we ought to do. Work with anybody, call, reach out. As it was said earlier, the sheriff's office has the stop. The sheriff's office don't have stop, but we have stop. They're the experts in narcotics. We have detectives, and they have crimes against people, crimes against children, crimes against property, those things. The constable's office is the street level expertise in civil. I've learned a lot. I teach it. I teach people to come behind me. I was one of the first few that got the civil process proficiency certificate that Chris Long talked about. I'm trying to take that, use that, make it better, help people out in any way that we can do. That's what it's about. My office, when I started, it was very simple, very small. It was just me. As the needs of the county grew, things that couldn't be done, holes that needed to be filled, they reached out to the constable. As the JP is the people's judge, we are also the people's police. It's kind of how it was designed. Constables are the oldest form of law enforcement in the state of Texas. We were formed. They took 10 of us and made a Rangers. We're ex officio DPS. That's never got us anything. I'm not even with that. So anyway, I am the most qualified, the most experienced for the job. Even the constables in our office, surrounding counties, call me, ask questions on how to perform, how to do, how to execute the process. I want to take that, give that back, and help in any way that I can. And I'll be here afterwards if y'all have any other questions. So thank you.
I have to interrupt you. There is a black Ford truck and a white Dodge truck, and they are parked in the fire lane, and I just got in trouble. And there is a white SUV over here in the fire lane. I need it to be there, please. So people have left in it. The Bronco? Okay. Are you about the Bronco? Yeah. There should be some parking spots. I don't want anyone to have to leave yet. But yeah, we are parked in fire lane, so they're asking us to fix that. Okay.
First of all, I commend all of you for being here for 2 hours, listening to a bunch of politicians talking. So that is to your credit that you've been so sweet and nice and a polite audience. I appreciate that. As far as like telling you about it myself, it might be easier since you probably are getting a little tired. I have a card here and I have my website, and it tells a lot about me on my website. So if you don't have one of my cards, I will make sure you have one, and you can read more about me if you really wanted to. I have been on the State Board of Education, and I want you to know one thing, and it's not because I'm complaining about this, I just want you to know. This is a non-paid job. I am doing this because my heart is with education. Not because it's paying me anything. Actually, it costs you in the long run. Whenever you do things for, many of you know this because a lot of you people are precinct chairs and stuff like that. You know, that's it's a lot of out-of-pocket stuff before, you spend things. But that's not the point that I want to make. I just want to make you know that I have done this not because I'm using it as a stepping stone, or obviously I'm not in the stepping area because I would have done that a long time ago. But the fact is, I do it because I care about education and I care about children. The other thing I want to say about my endorsements, that too is on my website. And I have several endorsements from people. This is how much time I had to work on that. I had their their phone numbers, so I could talk to them straight out. But I got Beth Van Dyne's phone number, and so Beth is from Irving area, that area. And some of you have seen her a lot on TV. I have Sharon Wilson, who was the district attorney, a tough district attorney for Fort Worth for quite a few years, and she's a friend of mine, and she and I go to the same church. And then Maddie Parker, the mayor of Fort Worth. Those are just people I picked up, but on my endorsement page, you will find former students and people I've worked with. And I think that might be a better, not that those new people know me, but the fact is sometimes you get all these different endorsements and you have to spend a lot of time trying to chase that down. And I'm not sure that that's not as important as just knowing the people that know me. A lot of my former students have written things, and so I would encourage you. And there's a group called Families Engaged, and Families Engaged will help me a whole lot, because whenever I get ready to, the parents call me from different things, I think, oh, I don't know, but maybe Families Engaged can help you with that issue. So those people are the people that have endorsed me. So, I would just ask you to check that out on this flyer. So thank you very much for letting me be here tonight.
Folks, again, my name is Lyndon Laird. I'm going to be your state representative of Texas District 58. I really have not sought either endorsements or money in this campaign. I'm self-funding my campaign, basically. I'm not endorsed by Donald Trump, or Reverend Abbott, or A.G. Paxson, or any of the high-flying Boston politicians. The few endorsements I do have, that I'm quite proud of, are those that I didn't see. And they are those of local leaders here in Johnson County, mayors, my best skills and experience. I want to say one more thing here. We talked about earlier tonight these environmental issues that we're facing here in Johnson County and in Somerville. We talked about the Bitcoin situation in Somerville and Hood County. As many of you know, we also have a very recent development that didn't even exist here 2 weeks ago, or we didn't know about it 2 weeks ago, and that is the development involving the fertilizer contamination here in Johnson County. This was not an issue here. At least I didn't know about it 2 weeks ago. Constable Fuller's office and his detective Ames have done an admirable and incredible job over the last year or so, more than a year, in investigating possible contamination of this fertilizer, which frankly involves human waste. We have people putting human waste on property here in Johnson County. It's contaminating soil. It is contaminating pond water and well water. It is killing animals. It is causing humans to become sick and their livestock to die in many cases. And folks, just speaking frankly to you, I've had a fair amount of professional success in my career. I've done pretty well, but I've also made a lot of mistakes. I've made a lot of mistakes. And you know what? Those mistakes are very, very painful when I make them. But you know what? I learn from them. I try to learn from my mistakes. As I think we all should. And I made a mistake last week on the radio show. Greg's radio show and Jacob's radio show. I talked about this biosolic issue without knowing what I was talking about. And just kind of speaking as an attorney off the cuff, based on a cursory review of the few documents available to me. And I apologize if I offended Constable Fuller or his Deputy Ames. I was wrong. And I apologize to him. I'm more familiar with the issue now. I'm personally being affected by this issue. And I understand how important it is. And so I want to correct the misconceptions I may have passed along on those radio shows last week. I was wrong, and I did. And so, again, I'm Lyndon Laird. I'm asking for your votes for state representative. I'll do you a good job.
My name is Troy Fuller.
Right there. Stop.
Really, I've been serving Johnson County for 30 years. 30 years, I mean, that was back in the day that you could drive from Cleveland to Burleson and only have 3 traffic lights. Since that, our lives in Johnson County have changed dramatically. I mean, and as a law enforcement officer involved in Johnson County, I've been involved in that process. I'm not the guy that sits at the table and works with zoning committees and stuff. It's your commissioners and stuff. But law enforcement-wise, over the years, under Sheriff Bob Alford, Mayor Griffith before him, and Adam King now, we've all had to work together to address the issues that we're facing. For somebody to tell you that I haven't been involved, it's just not true. For somebody to tell you, I mean, you know, nobody here would have ever known that I lost a leg until somebody decided to make an issue of it. I've never bragged about it. I never let my guys come and waste their time at my house. If you don't believe me, I'm catching them off guard. There's guys back here that work for me. They'll tell you. Sheriff Bob Alford's over there. He works for me. He's the one guy in my pastor that endorsed me. What a beautiful article. And he's somebody that knows my career. He knows what I've done. He knows what I've been through. He knows what I've given. I lost my leg. It was in the line of duty on a high water rescue. It's no secret. I'm not ashamed of it. It wasn't a curse. It was a blessing. The poor ladies didn't want to die. So I'm not going to make excuses for anything that's happened. I've had a couple of medical things. To say I'm not at work is just not true. To say I take a coward's way and don't show up when things are tough. Here's guys back there, ask them. You know, and I just want people to know the truth. And that's the truth about me. You know, I work hard. I show up to work every day. I wear a uniform every day. I go out. I try to lead from the front. There's certain papers that I handle every day because I want to be involved. I don't want to have to do everything. When we're running behind on papers, I get out and serve papers. It don't matter what they are. When Dana has been working on this environmental investigation, Mr. Laird, I greatly appreciate you taking that time. I mean, if you look at this environmental investigation, if we're behind with something, last time I did a mock call, just can't be done. So anyway, so we just picked up line with the team. We worked with the sheriff's office, we worked with the team. What we did together. What we built on, we built together. And we made our share of mistakes. But I just encourage you, before you judge me, please get out and talk to these people. Ask them. I've never been one to sit back and not do something. So my name is Troy Fuller. I think I have the experience. I know I have the experience to lead us into the future. I believe with all my heart that I have your best interest at heart. You're probably not going to see me sometimes drinking coffee because I'm a worker. I get out, I go to the office, I get my stuff that I need to do, and I get out and I work. And you say they're not visible, man, you haven't seen my fire cars. I mean, I promise you, they're the brightest cars, and they're out in the community. I mean, I took office, it was a very subdued look to our vehicles. And I get made fun of sometimes, but my point is that you don't not see them when you're out in the community driving around. Well, like I said, if anybody ever wants to come out of office and talk to my people, I mean, as long as they don't stop their day, I mean, come by and ask them. You know, they have nothing to fear by supporting me or not supporting me. And that's just the truth. Thank you.
I'm just going to give you a record just to try what you guys already know that. I'm going to keep this short and sweet. This was actually the moment when I announced I was going to run that I feared the most, was to stand up here. And so it was made very clear early on I was not going to get any local endorsements. It was obvious. I saw Facebook pages from the sheriff's office and other elected officials to leave my name off on good job, AD, good on this case, going back years. So it was very obvious that I was not going to get any local support. And I knew that I wasn't going to get any endorsements. And this game today, I'm completely humble. I'm amazed the endorsements I've been able to get. Senator Ted Cruz. I mean, this is his podcast, read his books. I love Ted Cruz. I never thought it'd be in a million years that Ted Cruz would even know I am. Attorney General Ken Paxton, our head law officer in Texas. Sid Dillon, Agricultural Commission. Wayne Christian for Railroad Commission. But the endorsements I'm most proud of are not those, no offense to the gentleman, but being backed by Fleet and TMPA is the thing I'm most proud of. You know what that is? Every officer has to have insurance if they're involved in off-the-wall shooting, or if they're involved with IA investigation, it's the insurance that they buy, and also the voice for the police, the basic police unions. The two biggest in Texas. Every officer either got TMPA or they don't. I can't call Fleet out and say, you want to endorse me? It's not going to happen. I can't call TMPA out and say, you want to endorse me. It's not going to happen. Most recently, I got with CMPA, they called me, and they go, we don't know who you are, but we've had so many calls, and we're just getting sick of all these officers calling and saying, we need to endorse the vet. So those are the ones I'm most proud of. Because when I started this campaign, I said, go talk to the officers. Ask them who they think is the best choice for this return. And those endorsements are the icing on the cake that cherry on top and says, it's true. The officers want a voice. The officers say the system is not working, it's wrong. So I just ask that you be conscientious, look at both sides, evaluate both candidates. I hope I can get your vote, but I want you to vote what's best for you as Johnson County.
Hello, my name is Tom Rydell, and I run for Precinct 1 Constable. I have 23 years of law enforcement experience. Been the chief deputy at the officer's office in the past. Let's talk about endorsements. I think, one of my best endorsements is that I have no political endorsements from any county official in the Johnson County area. None. None of them want an endorsement. That's okay. Because I want to stop the endorsement of people who just actually work for me or with me. One of my best endorsements is retired chief of Cleveland, Gary Bell. He stood up and endorsed me. The Cleveland Police Officers Association has endorsed me. Retired office manager for Precinct 1 Constable's office, Jim O'Neill, has endorsed me. Former office manager for Precinct Constable 1, Warren Gunter, has endorsed me. Former deputy of Johnson County Constable's office, Beth Clark, has endorsed me. If you need to see my endorsements, by all means, go to DommyRidell.com. I have them listed. I'm proud to have the people who's worked with me, for me, to send an endorsement. I don't need a political endorsement of this county, because I have the people behind me. So, thank you. I appreciate your vote, and thank you for your time.
Apologize, I had to step out the restroom just a second. Endorsements. Adam King, current sheriff of Johnson County. Alan West, current sheriff of Sullivan County. Bob Alford, retired sheriff, Johnson County. 3 of the 4 members of the Commissioners Court, both county attorneys from Searle County and Johnson County. I am proud of the endorsements that I have because they are from local people. If somebody here thinks that Austin, Texas knows what goes on in the criminal justice system of Johnson County and Searle County, they don't. They do not. I am proud of these local endorsements. These are the people that I have worked with for 30-something years in prosecuting felonies. Everybody that has been on a death penalty jury in this county, raise your hand. Everybody that has stood up in front of a jury and asked a jury to execute a criminal defendant. Who? About 5 times. It is a heavy, heavy responsibility. Before you turn the reins of the criminal justice system and felonies over to somebody that does not have a proven track record, you better think twice. The decisions made in that office are hard decisions. You have got to be right. My name is Bill Hanna. I love Texas. I'm a born-again Christian. I ask for your vote very humbly. Thank you.
Okay, I'd like to thank everyone for coming out, the candidates, and all of you for coming. Y'all can visit as long as the candidates stay.